part of the world you're in. I'm David Corey, and we are, myself and my colleague, Mr. Kim Cairns, are with the Emotional Intelligence Training Company based in Western Canada. We work all over the world to help leaders develop their leadership skills using the concept of emotional intelligence based on a particular model. The model that we use is called the MHS Model of Emotional Intelligence, or Model of EQ, and it was based on the original work of Dr. Reuven Bar-On, who began his research in 1981. So chronologically, one of the first to work in the area of emotional intelligence. So Kim, we're here today to talk about reality testing, and reality testing in today's world where things are uncertain, where change is happening rapidly, where there are a lot of things to frankly be concerned about and to be even afraid of, brings in this concept of reality testing. And so Kim, what comes to mind when you think of testing our perceptions of reality?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, Dave, really is this this human capacity to have feelings and thoughts regarding my environment that I'm in presently, and whether I'm just being driven by that internal source of information, or are these just assumptions I'm making? And how valuable is it to be curious in every aspect of life, to actually seek out some more information, so I'm not just operating on what my own thoughts and feelings are. I think it's important to acknowledge those, to be aware of those, and also to be aware of what's the impact on me in this situation. What's the impact on me? What's the impact on those around me? And interestingly enough, some people seem to have some different perspectives. That could be valuable knowledge for me to make further inquiry there.
Yes, yeah, it is about the making further inquiry, which is the basis of reality testing, and really I think it's quite fascinating that our perception is our reality. And so your perception, Kim, is your reality, my perception is my reality, and unless we actually compare them, unless we test them, unless we share our perceptions with each other, then there's no basis for comparison, and we could be relying on our own thinking. And there's a wonderful old saying, and that is, when we find ourselves in various predicaments and problems and challenges in life, there's a wonderful old saying, which is that your best thinking got you there. And it's true, you know, all on our own. As long as we keep it to ourselves and inside our own heads, we can end ourselves up in hot water. We can end ourselves up in various predicaments and challenges. So it will be important that we actually test our perceptions and test our reality with others, openly, verbally, so that we can get another perception and compare and contrast that with our own, and it's really quite fascinating. We've discussed this, Kim, this whole idea of terrorism, and the worries, fears, concerns that have been expressed by various groups about immigrants, etc. Is a really interesting case study around reality testing, and some of the more brilliant commentaries on these issues have come from people who have simply been doing some reality testing. Is that interesting, Kim?
Yeah, very much so, because I think that, you know, I mean, you raised the point of terrorism. I think it's applicable to any kind of news event, and we live in a world of photo ops and sound bites. And it's amazing where we can go in our own minds based on a very little information, and start formulating some assumptions about what the situation really is. Then I actually believe that, and my actions are dictated by what those beliefs are. So, you know, I think that the situation with terrorism is complex, as are most things in life. So if I can use that as my guide, that I'm constantly engaged in complex situations, and my narrow little bit of information is only one part of that. You know, with regard to anything, I have my viewpoint, my reality. You have yours, or perceptions of reality, and then there's reality out here somewhere, which constantly shifts and changes. So I think a big part of this too is weaving in the assertiveness and the emotional expression components of the model. So it's important for me to be able to articulate what's going on for me, given the information I have right now, how I'm feeling about that, and what I'd like to do with those feelings. And if I'm conveying that information to you, that's laying the groundwork for a lot, probably more beneficial and deeper dialogue than we would normally have.
You've brought in other EQ competencies from other areas of the model as we normally do, and it's interesting to think that in our model, which is a wheel model, and we've got this one little wedge of the pie, which is called decision making. That within decision making, we've got solving, we've got reality testing, and we've got impulse control. And it's interesting how those three work together to assist us with decision making. So for example, when faced with a problem or a challenge, our first question that we should ask ourselves is my perception of this problem, issue, challenge accurate? Is it valid? And we should actively test that hypothesis that we're making. Interesting that Kim, you may remember this, that we just had this discussion in a course recently, and one of the participants said, "Now wait a minute here. I don't think the Wright brothers tested their reality of whether their plane could fly." And it was an accurate observation. They actually tested their reality in other ways other than verbally with their contemporaries. What they did was they built what they thought was something that could fly, and they actually tried to fly it. So they did reality testing. They tested reality in a very true sense of testing, using the scientific method. I think this is going to work. I'm going to try it and see if it actually does. And of course, this is a classic way of testing our reality. And ultimately, we may in fact do those very things. Just try something and see if it works, and knowing full well that it may fail. And that, again, that's not the end of the world. That's simply part of the process of growing, developing, and changing.
Yeah, definitely, David. And I think that that notion of the scientific method is a good one to lug around in my own mind. It is about, it elicits a sense of curiosity, and I can have a grand design for some approach to a problem. That's great to have, and knowing that that's going to be constantly adjusted as I work my way through towards solving that problem, resolving that issue, and being curious throughout that journey. Yes, I've amassed this amount of information. This has been helpful. What else do I need to take a look at with regard to this issue? There's that reality testing component too, just constantly being curious about, could there possibly be a more effective way to approach this?
Well, and let's throw in the final competency in the decision-making composite, which is impulse control, that we have to control our impulses to take action on our initial perceptions of our reality, lest we come up with a band-aid solution, lest we come up with a solution that will work versus the optimum solution in a given situation. We really need to take into account all of these thinking skills, which are based on emotions. Our emotions tell us to, okay, that's a perception, let's go with that. And we want to leap into situations. We want to, particularly if our optimism is higher, and we choose to focus on what is good or what is positive about a situation, we may not control our impulses to get involved. We may not control our temptation or our drive to take action on an issue, and get a less than a less than optimal result. So it is reality testing, which is at the crux of this. It's when you're, I like where you're going with this, Kim. Is, when we're faced with anything in life, our first question is, okay, so what is my perception of it, and is there a way I can test it? Can I maybe ask my spouse, ask a sibling, ask a colleague, ask a partner? I'm just wondering what your perception is on this situation, and sharing our own. Right, and there's that the emotional self-awareness piece comes in as well. It's like, well, what is my perception, and how do my biases, that is my feelings about other similar kinds of situations, how do my biases affect my perceptual ability in this situation? And am I testing it? Am I checking it? Am I wondering about it? And it's that testing, however we do that, whether it's wondering, whether it's verbally asking a colleague for their perspective, or whether it's physically trying out whether the leftover food will fit in the Tupperware container, and actually trying it, knowing that it may not fit, and we'll have to get another container. Simple ideas of reality testing, but testing nonetheless.
Yeah, Dave, and what you've just said there kicks in this phrase that I kind of pack around in my own head too, shifting from either or to yes and thinking. That it's more of an expansive, open kind of mindset to situations, rather than getting locked into my initial perceptions and beliefs about something. And what it also says to me too is, we all have self-talk going on in our heads, and so part of the reality testing is what I'm saying to myself really true, or is there possibility for more awareness and information through me being curious about my own thinking and feelings about what's going on? So it is carrying that curiosity and that more expansive way of looking at the world, rather than confining myself to either being right or wrong in a situation. And we all have that, if I'm wrong, there's fear of being wrong in the group, there's fear of being wrong for decisions that I'm making myself, and that fear-driven way of operating needs to be reality tested on a regular basis internally.
Yes, and I like your suggestion and your observation earlier when we were talking about this, that there are some great models out there that can really help us to remind ourselves how our lack of reality testing can actually interfere with our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And you brought in the ABCDE model. Which was originally created and written about by Albert Ellis and his colleague. They wrote a book which outlined the premise of rational emotive behavioral therapy, and I think that book came out in the 1980s, like maybe 1987, but they originally began their work in the 50s, and so had done lots. I saw this ABCDE model attributed to Martin Seligman the other day, or someone had attributed it, and so I said, I thought that was Albert Ellis, and sure enough, it was Albert Ellis, and rewritten and reimagined by many people, of course, over the years. However, it's a solid model for what we're talking about here. Now, maybe just remind us, Kim, what do the A, B, C, D, and E stand for again?
Well, the A is the activating event. It is whatever's happening. And so that's the start of it, and I think it's very helpful to be able to break this down in our own minds too. From, okay, there's this activating event, then the B is my beliefs about what's happening in that event, and when I say event, that's a dialogue, that's a situation, it's It's everything that we do face in life. So B is my beliefs about what's happening. C is the consequences of those beliefs, and that's a real key part of this. So I believe this. What are some of the potential consequences of my beliefs with regard to this event? So I'm beginning that internal dispute of my beliefs. Again, that curiosity part. And that's the gaining, that's the self-management part. That's the gaining a bit of control over what is going on. It's being very aware of what feelings are being elicited and how I'm going to manage those is all part of that consequence component. So go on to D, Dave.
Well, when you mentioned C, correct?
Yes.
Which, of course, is the consequences. I drifted off there for a moment.
It happens.
Well, I was thinking about some of the cultures we've worked in the world, Kim, where those beliefs actually prevent them from taking action that we know to be effective, and we've seen some sad and tragic results of beliefs interfering with and that those beliefs have taken the form of black magic and various other more traditional kinds of beliefs, and then even modern beliefs like beliefs in various religions have prevented people from taking the medical the so-called Western medical approach, which we know to be effective through the scientific method, and with tragic results. People have died as a result of not taking medicines and believing in black magic or having faith that some other way is going to save them. So I drifted off there for a moment, but coming back to D, which is disputation or disputing beliefs. So we get consequences that don't fit with our objectives, that are not acceptable to us, that we behave in ways that are not taking us further towards our goals. Then that is a great clue to disputing the beliefs that we initially held that led to the consequences that we experienced. And so of course, in the case of the black magic, it would be disputing whether the belief in the black magic actually was getting the results that we were looking for, was actually helping, or whether we should believe that maybe there's another alternative approach that would be helpful or that would be effective under the circumstances. And so D is, as Albert Ellis has written about the idea that we human beings hold irrational beliefs. And of course, beliefs are simply deeply held ideas about things, and so those ideas come from all kinds of different experiences in life and our socialization, etc. And we have these deeply held ideas which become our beliefs, and we have some that don't serve us. And it's about disputing those beliefs that do not serve us. In fact, Albert Ellis has created what he calls the 12 most commonly held irrational beliefs, and we've asked Sherwin, our wonderful webmaster and graphic designer, to do those up in a fancy little poster, and we're happy to send that poster to whoever requests that from us. Simply email myself or Kim, that would be David or Kim at EITrainingCompany.com. Request a copy of the Albert Ellis Irrational Beliefs poster. We're happy to send that to you. And so disputing those beliefs that do not serve us, and just say, I wonder if this belief is, if I should maintain this belief, if I should continue to hang on to it, or maybe it's about time I just actually did away with that belief and disputed it, and what are the grounds for disputing this belief, and then maybe even checking out that reality and confirming your perceptions about whether this is a belief that no longer serves you or not. And then of course D, the end of our model is about effect. What is the ultimate effect of taking a different course, taking a different path in order to arrive at the conclusion that we want to arrive at? All of this is based on the idea that how we think about events, as Kim described them. Events do not carry any emotional content. There's no emotions found within an event, which is interesting because a lot of people think that, you know, for example, public speaking carries with it a lot of anxiety. Well, actually, it doesn't. Public speaking is simply standing up in front of a group of people and speaking. As to the emotion, well, that depends on how the public speaker views that situation. And for some of us, that situation is exciting and challenging. How am I going to do that well? How am I going to get my message across and engage and enthrall and entertain and educate an audience? And those things are very exciting to us and not as anxiety producing as it might be for someone else. So what we believe about those events triggers the consequent emotions. So that's our ABCDE. Did I miss something, Kim? Did you want to go a little bit further into any of the other steps?
Well, I think the only thing of note, really, Dave, is it is definitely not a linear process. And just going through those steps in linear order is probably not going to take me anywhere. So I need to be thinking about it as a constant kind of process, and continuing to utilize that model as I work my way through life, as I work my way through my beliefs about a certain event, and are my beliefs blocking or leading me to my desired outcome? So it's just that constant curiosity about my own operation and about my entire emotional operating system. So if I can think of it in that respect, then I think I can implement that more often rather than thinking, okay, this is just about one event and I'm going to march my way through it in linear order. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a way of being on a constant kind of basis, and at the root of that, to me, is curiosity. The other part of it for me is life is ambiguous. There are we are rife with ambiguity in life, and so I think that it's about developing a certain comfort level with that. And again, that takes me away from that either-or thinking. It's yes and, because things shift and change, and there aren't concrete answers to a lot of things that we encounter in life. So getting comfortable with being uncomfortable is something that we talk about, but I think really at the root of that is getting comfortable with the ambiguous nature of life.
Kim, I'm reminded of what we often hear from managers that we are working with in coaching situations, the idea that we should be doing certain things, that we ought to be doing certain things, that we must behave in certain ways. And these, again, whenever you hear those words, should, ought, must, that's evidence of a belief. And we really want to encourage people to just think about those beliefs. Where do they come from? Why do you have them? And are they true? And really test the reality of those beliefs. Ask yourself, why should people do certain things in certain situations? Why must I do that? What is my obligation in this situation? And just ask yourself whether that's real, whether it's true. Well, where did it come from? And why do I believe that? And if after you have tested your reality and you find that you still feel that that's the right thing to do, that that's the way you should go, then by all means, go that way. But please test your reality. And so we encourage the wide questioning of beliefs. We encourage the wider just not accepting things at face value, asking why. It's so, kids are infamous for asking why to the point of annoyance. Well, that's what we want to encourage, and maybe that's how we lost that curiosity, Kim, that you talked about. Maybe that's why we don't ask why so much, is that we heard from our parents, don't ask why. Just accept it. Just take it that's the way things are. Well, I don't ascribe to that, and I know you don't either, Kim, and we have met far too many people who've never questioned why, who aren't curious about where those beliefs came from, and whether they're actually serving them or not. And we just see so many beliefs holding people in unhappy, dissatisfied situations where they're experiencing a low level of well-being based on belief systems that go unexamined and reality that remains untested. So if there's any solid message, and we've got a few minutes left, if there's any solid message that I want people to take from this, it's test reality. It's question assumptions and beliefs, and really don't rely on your own thinking. Test out your thinking with others. That's how we connect. That's how we help and support each other. That's how we collaborate for better results. And think of this central key component of reality testing in and amongst our other invaluable EQ competencies. Kim, how would you summarize, or what's a key message or two you'd like people to take from this?
Well, I don't even know if it's a key message or not, Dave, but one of the things that I hear from people is, okay, if I'm constantly reality testing, does that mean I'm waffling, unable to make a decision? So I think it's important to keep in mind that reality testing operates in conjunction with movement, with action. It's not being frozen in a place, unwilling to make a decision. So it's really more of an organic process. So if I can be thinking that way, it doesn't put me into this position of thinking, well, if I'm constantly asking questions, I'm not taking any action. They walk hand in hand. It's an ongoing process. So I think that's key, because people do get hung up on, well, okay, the time for questioning's over. Let's commit. Let's do this. And yes, we do need to do that. And as we commit to that, that reality testing continues through that commitment process.
Yes, total agreement on that we're not talking about sitting in your chair and testing your reality all day long. We're talking about confirming that somehow getting some evidence that you're moving in the correct direction, and keep moving. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. We have not acknowledged a fellow team member who has dropped in silently on our broadcast today. That would be Mike Walters, who is one of the newest members of our team, and is looking after sort of Eastern Canada, based in Ontario. And welcome, Mike. And one day we'll get Mike involved in the conversation, the discussion. He has a lot of things to say from his experience. Again, I'm David Corey with the Emotional Intelligence Training Company, and thank you for joining us. You've been with me and my colleague, Mr. Kim Cairns, and we are based in Western Canada. We work with organizations of all sizes, governments from small little municipal governments to big national governments of countries, and we help them with emotional intelligence programming to develop leadership and personal skills. So that's what we do. We love to hear from everybody that cares to drop us a line. You can reach me at david@eitrainingcompany.com, and I will say goodbye until next time, and turn it over to Kim to wrap us up today. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks for joining us, folks. And as David said, we're always interested in hearing what's going on for people. If you're interested in more of what we do, make sure and check out our website, eitrainingcompany.com. Any questions, thoughts, stories about how EI is unfolding in your life, reach either David or Kim at eitrainingcompany.com. Again, thanks for joining us. Look forward to speaking with you the next time about impulse control.